Hi, it's Dr. Lori. I'm at the Orange Tree Antique Mall in Winter Park, Florida, near Orlando, checking out some Corningware. Come thrift with me. Here's the Cornflower Blue that everybody associates and says, oh, the Cornflower Blue is from the 1950s and 60s. Well, no. The Cornflower Blue here, this is a vintage 80s piece of Corningware. How do you tell? You see this indentation, this little lip all the way around. You see how it curves in? That, of course, is a later style for Corningware, particularly of the 80s. If you had this same size dish with a Cornflower Blue, it would not have that lip and it would not have that dip. No lip, no dip is, of course, earlier. When you have the lip and the dip, you know you're in the 1980s. They want $22.50 for this. This is also a good price for this. This piece is worth about $25. Then you've got this, which I oftentimes refer to as the Marjolaine pattern. It's similar to it. It's called Spice of Life or Spice O Life. And typically Marjolaine and Spice of Life have this muted brown rust, the yellow, sort of like a sunflower color from the 1970s. So you typically see that. This is the 6-cup teapot. So you put the hot tea in this, the hot water in this to make tea. You can see the mark is right here under the handle. And this was introduced from the early part of the 1970s to the late 1980s. So a very short amount of time for this piece. But make sure you have this lid, and the lid has to have that little piece on the underside so it clicks in. And you'll listen to it, hear it. You hear the click? Has to click in. It's in very good shape. No condition issues here. You don't have too much use on this piece. A lot of people got this because it was part of a larger set, but then they didn't use the teapot. A 6-cup teapot is usually good for a few people, maybe 2 people, maybe a couple if they're drinking tea. $23.75, and I would say that's another good price for this. This is a $30 teapot. Other 1980s style pieces of Corningware is this with the lid. You've got to get the lid. The lid is important. Okay, if you want to have the dish and you don't care about the lid, fine, buy the dish. But if you can get the lid and it's offered to you and you know that it's the match, get the lid, even if you're never going to use it. This is the Wildflower pattern. This pattern also dates to the 1980s. And oftentimes, I don't want to confuse it, it's made by Corning, but in fact, some of it is also the same pattern as Corelle ware. So be careful that you're not thinking that you have Corningware when you actually have Corelle ware. For example, here's the pattern, right, the Wildflowers on this cup, but it is Corelle ware, see? So Corelle is not the same standard. It is an everyday use line by Corning. So this is nice, $3.70 each. These are $1 a piece. So I wouldn't pay $3.75 for this. I would definitely say $1. If you're buying multiples, you want a better discount even than that, and you want to ask for it. So there's that. Let's put this down. But this is what we were talking about with respect to the 80s. Here's the lid. Look for this ring. That ring, it usually indicates, of course, a Corningware lid and not a replacement and not somebody else's. There's also usually information here about the lid too, which tells you that it says made in the USA up there. So you want to look for that also. Here is my point. It's the same pattern, the Wildflowers, right? But this is a piece of Corningware, baking dish. There's your mark. So you got to look at the marks. The marks matter. Don't just assume that because you have the same pattern, you have the same line by the manufacturer, because certain lines don't have the same kind of quality, control. This is a wonderful piece. This again from the 1980s. They want $35 for it, $35.50. And that's also a good price. This is a $45 baking dish with its matching cover by Corningware. This piece everybody loves and everybody looks for, and of course it's the coffee pot. It's the vintage Corningware 1970s 10-cup coffee pot with the Cornflower Blue, and it seems to have all of its pieces. Here's the problem. I know they have to use tape. I know they don't want to have anything get lost. I understand the need for tape. This person was smart enough not to tape it over the design because, of course, you can pull up some of the actual surface. So that's one of the things that I'm happy that they didn't do that. I understand they want to keep everything intact. Sometimes saran wrap will work just as well. And it doesn't usually leave some kind of residue. The adhesive residue, it doesn't leave, those types of things. Let's take a look at the mark. I gotta put on my glasses, wait a minute. So let's take a look at the mark. And here it is, and this is the 10 cup, and it has the Corningware. They use the blue mark here. Remember, Corningware marks can be black and they can be blue, but they use this particular colored mark to match the Cornflower Blue. So look for that, because you won't have a black mark with a blue Corningware. So that's what we're looking at. Nothing else on the bottom. You can see that. And this is the percolator. I like a percolator personally. You know, I do drink my fair share of coffee. I don't know about you guys. I drink a lot of hot drinks. I grew up in New England, so we drink tea with milk, yes. And I drink a lot of coffee. It remains very desirable with lots of collectors, particularly young adult collectors who want their house and their collections to look like their grandmother's. So everybody thinks, oh no, you know, young adults don't want it. I'm in this huge antique mall today, and I would say that a good 75% of the people here are in their 20s and 30s shopping. So, you know, all these people go, oh no, none of the young people know about this or can do anything or know anything about this or like it. They all like it because they're all here shopping. I do like the idea that this particular one is $75.50. Usually you get $100 for this piece. So this person seems to say, hey, I want to move this stuff out. I've got it and I want to move it out. I want to show you this because this is my favorite. You're going to go, oh, Dr. Laura, you're so boring. I am so boring. I love the French white. I like the blue Cornflower and all the rest of them, but I love the French white because it really will go with anything. Why? It has no pattern. No pattern at all. This is actually the Corningware that I use. I know it's boring, but it's very pretty and classic. And this is typically what you're going to see. This is a Corningware piece from the 90s. This is what would be considered a quiche pan or a quiche dish, baking dish. The ones from the 90s have very, very simple designs. They do designs all throughout the latter half of the 20th century. In the 1990s, they figure out, well, maybe just plain would be good. Many, of course, established French cooks will use just a plain piece like this. Here is the Corningware mark for that time period, about 1995 to about 2000. This is the French white, and this is a quiche. In the 80s and 90s, quiche was very, very big. My mother was no chef, let me tell you. She was a good cook, but she was not a chef, and quiche was not her thing, and even my mother was making quiche at that point. So something that is nice. Low profile, right, quiche dish. There are some markings in it. It really needs a little bit of loving care. They want $23.75 for it, which is a pretty darn good price. I would say this is a $25 piece of Corningware. It's 20 years old. I mean, it's more than 20 years old, so it is considered vintage. I'm in Orlando. I know you think I'm trying to be like Mickey with the gloves. Here's why I wear the gloves. I am not a germaphobe. The gloves are from my museum experience. When you wear gloves, you are doing that to protect the object from the oils on your hands, which can be transferred to objects and deteriorate them, attract dirt, and devalue them. So that's why I wear the gloves. Cool Corningware. There's more to come from Orlando, Florida.